You've been told that if you just wrote down your goals, you are 42% more likely to achieve them. Or maybe you've heard about that famous Yale University study. You know, the one where only 3% of graduates who wrote down their goals became rich and successful later in life. Here's the problem. That study never actually happened. It's a myth. And writing down your goals by itself doesn't guarantee anything. If it did, everyone with a New Year resolution would have 6 packs. At least I know I would. $1 million business, or wake up every morning calm and collected. But you know, by February, everyone has just forgotten about their goals. Welcome to the Brick by Brick broadcast. My name is Olatunde Akinwumi, the creator of the Vital Architecture System, a framework that helps high performers close the gap between the life that they're living and the life that fits them so that confusion turns into confident, purpose-driven momentum. You're listening to the Brick by Brick broadcast, and this is episode 1. Yay! So welcome. This is episode 1, so everyone is still new here, so I expect everyone to follow this channel, like this video, and then send it to your family and your friends. Right, so today we're going to be talking about why SMART goals are broken. And I think that SMART goals are broken, right? Because every single one of us, you know, we know there are various goal frameworks. You know, you've heard about SMART goals, which is the very popular one. There are OKRs. You know, there's also the big, hairy, audacious goals. And then, you know, perhaps you've come across various kinds of frameworks that you have used in the past to frame your goals. But I'm going to narrow down on the SMART goal setting system because that's the one that most people are accustomed to. The SMART goals, you know, is an acronym for specific, measurable, actionable, time-bound, you know, realistic or relevant goals, right? But I think that it's a broken system because if, you know, that goal setting system emphasizes specific goals, it emphasizes measurable goals, but there are problems with it because, you know, even though we measure numbers, we don't measure momentum. And here's what I mean. You can say that I would like to lose 5 kg. So I'm waking up every morning, you know, to go for jogging. What the SMART goal system does not put into account is that some mornings you will wake up and you're not motivated, right? So it's not just enough to put it down on paper. Right? So that's the first problem, that you measure numbers, but you don't measure motivation. The next problem is that, you know, the SMART goal setting system doesn't take into account things like identity. It doesn't take into account things like, you know, emotions. It doesn't put into account the context, your specific context. So once you write down, you know, it's easily for you to just, you know, imagine that, oh, I'm going to do this. But you didn't put your lifestyle into consideration. You didn't put, you know, the context of your life, maybe your specific family situation. You didn't put into context, you know, where you are at that particular point in time. And so you have it down written, but in actuality, momentum is not as expected, right? And the next problem is that it's an externalized system. Many of the goals that, you know, we write down, you know, subtly depend on other people. So when you say, well, I'd like to have a promotion at work, or I want to get married this year, right? Those are things that are specifically outside of your control. You're not going to promote yourself at work, are you? You have to depend on your boss. And that is why I think that, you know, we should rethink our goal setting system. And I'm going to be introducing you today to the precise outcome engineering. Precise outcome engineering. And this goes beyond just writing down vague wishes. It goes beyond just writing down, you know, specific things. You know, it's about designing outcomes that are so precise that action becomes automatic. Because here's the thing. When you're writing down goals, there has to be an alignment between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, right? And a lot of the times what we do when we're writing down SMART goals is that we are focused on our conscious mind, right? But more than 90% of the things, of the actions we're going to take in life, the things that we're going to see in, you know, our life is determined by that unseen mind, which is the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind. So think about it, you know, what the precise outcome engineering system seeks to do is like a lock and key system where the lock is the outcome, and then the key are the, the exact conditions that you need to unlock, whatever it is that you are dreaming of. Instead of just, I want to lose weight, for instance, in precise outcome, you set a goal that you say, I want to walk briskly for 30 minutes in a park every morning, or I want to go, I want to feel energized, I want to feel calm until I can see and feel that my body is lighter. So you're putting into account not just the things that you're measuring, but how you are feeling, right? So I'm going to list out at least eight qualities of precise outcomes, and why it differs from the SMART goal system that you are currently using or you are aware of, right? And the first one is that when it comes to precise outcomes, right, it doesn't just deal with a target. It gives you the edges. So you're not just talking about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It also takes into account the edges. So I'm not just going to write a book, but I'm going to write a 40,000 word book, and I'm going to complete it by this particular time. And after I do that, this is how I'm going to feel. So the number one thing is that it is specific, right? So that's one thing that it takes in common, or is in common with the SMART goal system. The second thing is that it must always be positively framed. It has to be positively framed. And by positive frame, it means that you can't just say something like, I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be broke, or I don't want to be fat, right? Because the mind cannot process negatives. It can't do that. Think about, so let's say, I say, don't think about an elephant, right? The first thing that comes to mind is an elephant. So the mind does not process negatives. So when it comes to precise outcomes, engineering, it has to be framed in the positive. So rather than saying, I want to lose 3K, no, I don't want to be fat, you talk about what do you want, which is that I want to lose a certain amount of kg, or I want to get X amount of money. You can't just say, I don't want to be broke. Because what you are doing is that you are reinforcing the scarcity that you are trying to avoid, right? So instead of saying, I don't want to be broke, you say, I want to have 3 months of savings in my emergency account, for instance. So that's number two. And that number two means that it has to be positively framed. The third quality of a precise outcome is that it has to be personal and within your control. It has to be personal and within your control. And that means that you can't set goals that are reliant or dependent on other people, right? And I gave the example earlier on where I talked about the fact that I want to be promoted in the office. Yeah, you can take steps to be promoted, but ultimately that lies outside of your hands. So the question you're going to ask yourself is, what do I need to do to be put in prime position where I can be promoted? I want to get married. What do I need to do, to be in a position where, for instance, if it's the man, I would need to, look for a potential spouse. I would need to ask that potential spouse out. If you are in a relationship already, here's the steps that I'll need to take. So it has to be dependent on you. Because everything that, what we are seeking to do is for you to take responsibility. Goals that are set, which SMART goals doesn't take into account in any case. When you say, I want to get promoted at the office, right? You are not the one who's going to promote yourself, right? I'm going to get married this year. You are not the one who's going to marry yourself, for instance. And that is dependent on if the other person is going to accept or not, right? So all of the goals that you are setting as a precise outcome has to be something that is within your control. It has to be within your control. And then the next thing is that it has to take into account your context, your specific context. And what this simply means is that, let's say, for instance, you're trying to get a promotion at work. I'll keep using this example because, I'm talking to high performers. I'm talking to people who are doing a lot of work, people who are very hardworking, right? What a context simply means is you can set a goal and say, well, I'm going to be working X amount of time. I'm going to be working overtime. I'm going to be doing it. But if you have a family, it becomes a problem because we want a situation and a system that takes into account every of the context in your life, right? And so that means that whatever goal, whatever desire, whatever outcome that you are framing has to take into account your specific context. And so that means that You don't just set goals that are dependent on you alone, but you are also looking, how does this affect all of the people or all of the situations or what my specific context is? It takes into account that. So the next quality of a precise outcome is that it has evidence protocol built in. And that just simply means that, quite unlike SMART goals where, you are measuring progress, a precise outcome actually goes beyond that and talks about, what you would see, what you would feel, what is the evidence that you would have actually achieved that, right? So yeah, you're working with metrics and numbers when it comes to, SMART goals, but precise outcomes has to deal with the things that, your sensory perception of how, the tangibility basically of what, your goal or your desire is. So for example, let's say, you've set a goal to be a public speaker, right? And so you would say, okay, when it comes to SMART goals, look, I would like to have 3 or 4 speaking engagements this year, or I'm going to try to build myself, I'm going to learn, the skills of public speaking. When it comes to precise outcomes, right, and you say, okay, I want to be a public speaker, beyond just the fact that you are learning the skills of public speaking, you're also, how would it look like when I am a public speaker? For instance, you say things like, okay, I am on this stage and I feel excited to speak, I have a steady voice, or my breath is calm, and then after my speech, there's a lot of applause, and I'm relaxed and I'm walking down, right? So there are sensory perceptions. There are things that you can see, you can feel, you can sense beyond just the numbers, right? The next quality is that every precise outcome should be chunked down. It should be chunked down, right? So big outcomes are eaten small by small. So no matter how big it is, one bite at a time. That's how you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. You're going to write a book that is 65,000 words. You're going to start one chapter at a time, one paragraph at a time. So we chunk it down so that you can take, it's easier for your mind to be able to take the next step rather than looking at the entire picture and getting overwhelmed, right? And then also, when it comes to precise outcomes are resource efficient. And this means that you are taking into account all of the resources available at your disposal. So whether they are people, whether it is money, whether it is the time you have available, and that, all of these things are things that people easily take for granted when you're writing your SMART goals. You just write, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, right? But being resource efficient means that you are taking into account all of the resources that you have available at your disposal, your networks, the skill sets that you have, your capabilities, the behaviors that you need to change, right? So every single thing. This reminds me of a particular client I had recently who, one of the issues that he had when we got into a consultation call was that he thought that he didn't have time. And so we went over all of the resources we had available, and then we found out that he could get 1 hour at least every day to do the thing that he wanted to do. But guess what? I met him a few weeks ago and he was thanking me. I was like, honestly, I realized that I could even carve out 2 hours of my time every week in pursuit of this goal, right? But that would have been impossible if he just looked at the goal and, the goal was something that, I needed to do. And then he didn't take into account what are the things that do I have available at my disposal. So all we simply needed to do was to take, to do an audit of his time. And then we found pockets of time here and there where he could put together to pursue that particular goal. And then precise outcomes also are ecological in nature. They're ecological in nature. And, it's a bit like context, but what this means is that does it fit the whole of your life? Does it fit your identity? The thing that you are chasing, does it fit you the whole of your life? Does it fit your identity? Does becoming a millionaire change who you would fundamentally be or who you fundamentally are? Right? Would getting that new job or will chasing that particular, that particular role that you want to do change you? Is it something that, would affect the most important people in your life, right? And so these are all of the things that, you need to, put into account when you are talking about ecology. And that is what the precise outcome engineering, one of the qualities that it puts into account. It means that for being ecological is that you're not just looking at, the goal by itself, you're also taking into account how that will change you on an identity level. One of the reasons why people do not achieve the goals that they really want, even though on a conscious level they think that they want to do it, is because it's not in alignment of who they are fundamentally. It doesn't, there's no alignment. And so on one end, they think that they want to do something, or they want to be something, or they want to have something. And on a very deep level, right, it doesn't agree with who they are as a person. It doesn't agree with the values that they hold that perhaps are subconscious, right? And so that's why you are taking all of these things into account. You are looking at them holistically. You are trying to imagine, okay, if I'm going to do this thing, is this what I really want? Does this align with my personality? Does it align with my values? This is on a very deep level. Is this, the purpose that I want to do, I want to achieve, right? So I've listed out a few of them, a few of these qualities, and why I think that, precise outcomes are more, when it comes to goal setting, when it comes to, goal getting, right? Precise outcomes would always tower above smart goal setting, because it goes beyond just measuring numbers. It puts into account the entirety of your life situation. So if you're new to this channel, please like it, subscribe, and then send this video to your family or your friend. We've been talking about how the smart goal setting is broken, and I've been telling you about precise outcomes engineering, how you can engineer your outcomes in such a way that action seems very automatic, action seems effortless, and it's easy for you to chase your goals and your desires. And I've listed out at least 8 of the qualities of a precise outcome. I'm going to go in over them again in case you didn't get them. The first one is that every precise outcome is specific. And so, yes, that's one thing that, smart goals have in common with it. It has to be specific, right? Specificity. The mind deals in specificity, right? And I always give this example. I say that, every single one of us, if there's something that, you'd like to have, it has happened to me countless times, where I would say, okay, I love this red car. Red Toyota, maybe it's a Toyota Corolla, for instance, or let's say a G-Wagon, a black G-Wagon. And suddenly you go out of town and then you are seeing it everywhere you go. That's simply because you have raised your consciousness, right? So if you're specific about the things that you want, it's like coming into a room that is dark, right? Once you switch on the lights, that's what specificity does. Once you switch on the light, navigation becomes easy. It's easy for you to be able to go from one point to the other once you know exactly what you want. So a precise outcome, number 1, is specific. The second thing is that it has to be positively framed. And being positively framed simply means that you do not frame in the negative. You don't say things like, oh, I don't want to be broke. Oh, I don't want to be fat. Oh, I don't want to, I don't want to be jobless. It has to be positively framed, meaning it is not what you don't want, it is what you want, right? The next thing is that it has to be personal and within your control. Personal and within your control. It's not dependent on anybody, because once, whatever desire, whatever dream, whatever aspiration that you want is dependent on someone else, then it's outside of your control, and you can't control. Things can go awry. Things can go out of your control. So everything that you are chasing has to be something that you can do. It has to be reliant on your personal autonomy. So it has to be within your control, and it has to be personal. It also has to be contextual. And by contextual, I just simply mean that, it has to be something that takes into account the context of your life. Where are you at this particular point in time in your life? What are the things that are unique to the situation that you currently find yourself, right? And then evidence protocol. Every precise outcome has to have an evidence protocol built in, so that you can know when you have achieved whatever you have set out to do. Evidence protocol puts into account your sensory perception, what you can see, what you can smell, what you can taste, how you feel. So if I set a goal and I say, okay, on the 31st of December, I'm sitting down here, and I receive an alert. For instance, who doesn't like money? I do, right? I receive an alert, you know, and my phone beeps and I can hear the sound. And I'm excited and I jump and I'm right. I got the money. I'm so excited that this money has come in, right? You've written that down. That differs from just writing on the 31st of December, X amount of money comes into my account, right? So it has to be, because once you are doing that, what you are doing is that you start visualizing, you start seeing those pictures. Your mind, your subconscious mind is now in collaboration with your conscious mind. So it has to be, you know, have an evidence protocol built in so that you know when exactly you have achieved it. And it also has to be chunked down. Chunking down simply means breaking it down into the smallest next step. You know, the most important step you need to take is the smallest step that you need to take, right? And I said something like, okay, if you want to eat an elephant, you eat it one piece at a time. And then it has to be resource efficient, right? Resource efficiency is one quality that a precise outcome has. And that simply means that you would take into account all of the resources you have at your disposal, your time, your energy, your resources, your skills, your talents, your network. Who is going to help me? Who can I call? You know, I remember a client I had, and one of the things that, you know, she was trying to rebuild her business again from scratch. And one of the questions I asked her, who is in your network that you can reach out to? And she was like, oh, I've never thought about it. I don't have anybody. I was like, okay, go through your phone, go over all the numbers that you have. There is at least one person that you can reach. I'm happy to say that maybe like 2 or 3 weeks after that, she called me, and the exact amount of money she needed to, you know, to restart her business was given to her by someone in her network, right? There's something that they say that, you know, the 3 or 4 degrees of separation. There's somebody that you know who knows the next person that you would like to meet. But you probably have never really thought about that because you've gone through your phone, or you have a phone that you've never really gone through to see who are valuable, you know, to help you in the pursuit of your goal. And then it has to be ecological. So ecology is one thing that we put into consideration when we are talking about precise outcome. Does this goal fit into my whole life? You know, if you have a family, for instance, you would not be setting a goal, you know, putting them outside of that frame, right? You have to take into account the fact that, okay, I have a family, you know, and this and this and these are the things that I'm going to do that are going to affect them. So let's move on. Why does this precise outcome work better than SMART goals, right? Why does it work better than SMART? And for the number one reason will be that it eliminates vague wishes. You are not just wishing, right? It completely eliminates vague wishes. It's not just, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. It gives you a 360-degree, you know, overview of all of the things that are required of you. And then it's easy for you to be able to know what next step to take. It also removes resistance. And most people do not realize that the reason why they're not taking action on the things that they say they want to do is because there is resistance. So you write down something which SMART Goals promotes, you write it down on a sheet of paper, but when it's time to take action, somehow there's something that just keeps stopping you short. It's stopping you short. You just don't know why. You know, I think it was John Maxwell who said something very important, where he said, like, if you want to know where somebody is going, look at the person's schedule. And most people have goals, right? So you write a goal that, oh, I like to do this. For instance, maybe I would like to read a certain number of books every day, or I would like to lose weight, right? And they wake up in the morning and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, right? So even though on a conscious level, that's what they want to do, but internally, their emotions, their subconscious mind is not in alignment. So they're not moved to do action. They're not moved to take action, rather, right? So that's why precise outcomes now changes that, because it puts into account, you know, the things that you really want to do. You really want to do the things that are in alignment with who you are as a person, so that it's easy for you to take. You are not going to be relying. So here's a very important distinction. You're not going to rely on willpower when it comes to precise outcomes, right? With SMART goals, you can write down something, and the evidence is everywhere, because gym memberships, for instance, will say things like every single, in January, they have a spike in subscriptions, but by February and March, everybody has gone off, right? And that's because it's easy to write down. When it comes to taking action, if it's not something that you want to do, you will not do it. Even if when you try to use your willpower to do it, after some time, because willpower is like a muscle, it weakens. if you keep relying on willpower, after some time it weakens. So you do not want to rely on willpower. You want to rely on something that is in tangent. And so let me give you an example. Most people wake up every single morning, bath, brush their teeth, right? And before they go to bed at night, they bath and they brush their teeth. The reason why they can do that without being reminded, most people are not reminded, right? If you are reminded, then perhaps this doesn't count for you, is because deep down, hygiene is very important to them, right? And it applies to many other aspects of our life. You know, for some other people, like they have a routine where every single morning they sit down and they have a quiet time in prayer. If you're a person of faith, right? Because your spirituality is important to you, right? You don't need a reminder to do that, right? You also have people who are very conscious about their security. So you see how very conscious they are. At night, they go around locking their doors and all of that because safety is important to them, right? Now, all of these things are things that go beyond just smart goal setting, right? So one of the things that I said is that it removes resistance because they are designed, you know, for you to work with your psychology, not against it. So you're not going to rely on your willpower whatsoever. The other reason why I think that precise outcomes work better is that they stop you from chasing goals that are not even your own in the first place, right? Which is the most important, thing is you doing things that are in alignment with who you are as a person. So the goals are not dependent on any other person, which is why personal autonomy is a very key aspect of the precise outcome. Personal autonomy. The goals has to be something that is in alignment with who you are as a person. Because once it's you, then you have all of the factors within your control. You can control things. You can, if you do not, and then you can also take responsibility where you fail, right? Because the factors are within your control. Okay? And then also, it locks in motivation. It locks your motivation to clarity. It's not just about, it's not hype. It clarifies things for you. It clarifies things for you. That's one thing that precise outcomes does, is that it clarifies things for you. So here's my challenge to you. Take one goal, something you've written down or something that you have been trying to achieve for some time. And ask yourself this question, perhaps after you've run through all of the qualities that I've stated. Is it specific? Is this goal specific? Is it positive? Is it personal to me? Does my context count? How will I know whether I've achieved it emotionally, physically, visually, tangibly? What are the telltale signs that I've achieved this thing? Does it fit my life and the resources that I have available at my disposal? Rewrite all of these things or reframe that goal and rewrite it. Read it out aloud, and you'd feel the difference. You'd see that it's different from what it was as a SMART goal and what it is as a precise outcome. To help you, I've also written a book called The Precise Outcomes Engineering, right? And I'm going to send it to you. If you check the link in the description and you subscribe, you'll get a link in your email with that book. It will also come with an audio version so that you can couple all three of these and you would have a well-rounded experience. Thank you for listening. This is the Brick by Brick broadcast. The next episode will come your way very soon. But before then, subscribe if you have not already done so, like this video, and then send it to your family member or your friend. Thank you. See you soon. Goodbye.
This now Brick by Brick broadcast. Live your full potential on purpose.